Chapter 513. Come back next time then. I have become interested in learning more about them as well. Kewell broke the silence first, yet anxiously observed Yudhir's face as he stared back at him. Just before Kewell's limited patience ran out, Yudhir leisurely nodded, signaling his acceptance. All right, but Kewell, what? If you are going to investigate them, just be upfront about it. You are not good at hiding things. What kind of nonsense are you talking about? I'm giving you advice as a gesture of goodwill, considering the warning you just gave me at Dafel and our renewed alliance. Even without his advice, the outcome would likely have been the same. Nevertheless, it was helpful. Kewell, however, couldn't perceive Yudhir's advice as anything but condescending, and his expression tightened noticeably. Kewell had already been on edge while watching Yudhir confront Baron Dermond and appear before his father. He had been so anxious that he couldn't even look directly at him. Even now, a lingering, uncomfortable sensation filled a corner of his heart, as if he had betrayed his own father. Are you mocking me? If I wanted to mock you, I would have just laughed. ... Remember that if you really plan to investigate. Instead of replying, Kewell grimaced as if he was about to curse. He took several deep breaths before abruptly standing up. Just before he exited without looking back, Yudhir called him again. Wait a moment. Why now? Your knight's emblem fell off. It seemed Kewell had stood up so abruptly that the emblem of the Knights of the Bright Palace, which had been secured between his uniform's cape and shoulder, fell and rolled onto the floor. The fastener had flown off, leaving only the pin rattling around. Yudhir easily picked it up. The emblem, engraved with a beautiful luminous tree, was made of a material tinged with the red color that symbolized the crown prince. Give it here. Kewell quickly walked back with a flustered face and snatched it. For a moment, Yudhir felt a slight sting inside his glove. When he looked down, he saw a small red stain on the white fabric. Apparently, the pin had scratched through the glove and touched his skin. ... Wait, that wasn't my fault. Kewell hastily spoke upon seeing Yudhir's silence, clearly worried about facing retribution. Though the white gloves made the stain slightly noticeable, it was hardly more than a pin prick and was not painful, so Yudhir merely shook his head. It's fine, go. But why do you even bother to pick it up when I didn't ask you to? Just go. Kewell, who was about to offer yet another excuse that wasn't really an excuse, finally retreated when Yudhir frowned. How they would meet next time was not decided, but Yudhir could always summon Kewell if needed. I'm only dealing with one guy, but in some ways, it's more draining than facing both Duke Diarca and Baron Dermond. Yudhir sighed and rose from his seat. He planned to join up with Enon and Lusan in the adjoining waiting room and make his way back when the time was right. However, just as he was straightening his knees to stand, an unexpected bout of dizziness hit him, causing his vision to momentarily blur. What's this? Yudhir braced himself against the back of the sofa, bowing his head. After shaking his head and taking several deep breaths, the dizziness soon dissipated. Though he didn't experience a headache, his mind felt inexplicably suffocated. Maybe it's because I'm still a little drunk. Yudhir summoned water to drink once again. A sense of relief washed over him. He opened the door and headed for the adjacent waiting room. As soon as he knocked, Lusan and Enon, who were glancing at him in unison, hurriedly approached. Did you finish your talk with him? Everything's all right, I hope. Yes, good to hear. Yudhir had told Lusan and Enon that he met with Kewell due to a personal task. He hadn't disclosed what the task entailed, but Enon seemed to have an inkling, judging by his expression. Unlike Lusan, Enon scanned Yudhir with a piercing gaze. He soon noticed the glove and widened his eyes. You said everything was fine. What's this? Ah, this is. Before either could explain, Enon grabbed his hand. Lusan gasped upon seeing the small blood stain on the glove. My God, that's blood. Faced with the scrutiny of both the pharmacist and the priest, either felt as though he had committed some great sin. He averted his eyes, clenched his fist, and hid the wound. It's not a big deal, just a minor mishap. He explained that he had been slightly grazed by the sharp pin on the back of an emblem that Keel had dropped. Enon's expression remained stern. If that's the case, why hide it? You should have asked for treatment immediately. It's not painful. There is no need for that. Isn't a paper cut still a cut? When will you ever get treated if you're like this? Just remember, you can't get treated after you're dead. Enon is right, Lusan added. We are here specifically to handle such matters. Even a small wound can fester, especially considering you have been drinking. Sit down. Ydir finally relented after apologizing profusely. He removed his glove and allowed himself to be treated. Lusan poured a waterfall of divine energy into the minor wound, which soon vanished without a trace. Thank you. Any other issues? Both looked like they would give him an even harder time if anything else came up later. Ydir hesitated for a moment before mentioning the slight dizziness he had felt earlier. I felt a bit dizzy when I stood up, but it went away quickly. I think it might be due to the alcohol. See, this is why we have to ask multiple questions. Some people just don't speak up right away, even if it's inconvenient. Absolutely. So, we are done now, right? Exhaling a sigh, Ydir watched as Enon surveyed him a few more times before reluctantly nodding. Yes. Ydir blinked his still cloudy eyes and put his glove back on. Just as he was about to turn to leave the room, a sudden wave of unsteadiness hit him, and he had to brace himself against the wall. Thud. The sensation of his skin hitting the solid wall felt muted. Ydir. Lusan's voice sounded oddly distant. It took him a few seconds to realize that it was Enon who was supporting him by the arm. Ydir shook his head to clear it. The dizziness and the subsequent recovery mirrored what had happened earlier, but this episode lasted a bit longer. Lift your head a bit. Ydir realized that Enon's hand pressing against his forehead felt cooler than before, and he also realized that Enon's expression had turned decidedly more fierce. You're feverish. Really? Lusan looked startled and retorted. This guy, his complexion hasn't changed, but he's incredibly hot. Could it be the poison from earlier is just now taking effect? No, that's not it. Ydir shook his head and brushed off Enon's hand. He felt his heart beating faster than before. A wave of heat surged from his fingertips to his toes, and the insides of his eyes felt unbearably hot. At first, he couldn't understand it, but as all these sensations came together, a forgotten memory quickly resurfaced. Ydir knew what this floating sensation under his feet was. This was a distant sense of intoxication. It's just drunkenness. What are you talking about? You weren't like this earlier. I don't know why it's intensified so suddenly, but it's definitely not sickness. I'm drunk. I have experienced it before. Ydir shrugged off Enon. His own face, reflected in a distant ornate mirror, seemed to waver faintly. His complexion was as pale as it had been before, which had also been the case in his previous life when he was drunk. So, it was certain. This was simply drunkenness. This isn't something to make a fuss about. I will be fine after a short rest. You go on ahead. What? Go. The moment he spat out the word, a gust of wind blew from beneath his feet. Ydir stood back and sat on the sofa. He buried his face in his hands and took several deep breaths. The dizziness slowly began to subside. He felt a bit cold, yet not cold at the same time. Enon, sir. Kid, you go ahead, and then. The conversation between Luzan and Enon faded in and out, and the door opened and closed. After Luzan had left, Enon, who remained, took a deep breath and slowly approached Yudhir. When he was about a few steps away, Yudhir lifted his head and frowned. At this, Enon stopped in his tracks, crossing his arms as if he would not come any closer. Stop being so defensive, will you? ... If you're going to get drunk, at least do it gracefully. Enon, just go. I will, but before I do, cover yourself with this. Enon threw something. It was something heavy that fell over his head. It was the outer garment of his formal attire. It's suffocating. Take it with you. It's supposed to be suffocating. That's why I gave it to you. Enon sighed and shook his head. Then, faint but disruptive footsteps were heard not far away. Casting a brief glance in that direction, Enon muttered under his breath. They are here. I'm going. Know that you will get scolded later.